With that, we are going to transition to a little bit different section. We are going to talk to a couple local communities in Illinois and Indiana who have implemented green infrastructure programs. So we'll start by talking to Jane Gerdes, who is with the city of Peoria, and will tell us about what Peoria has been doing in terms of green infrastructure and in particular kind of challenges and problems and things that have worked really well. So Jane, I will turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Can you hear me and see my screen?
We can hear you and we can see your screen.
Great.
So can you put it in slideshow mode, and then that's perfect. You got it.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Jane Gerdes. I'm a civil engineer at the City of Peoria in the Public Works Department. I actually grew up in Peoria, went to the University of Illinois for my engineering bachelor's degree, spent a lot of time in the Chicago area right after graduation, and then ended up moving back to Peoria. So I'm glad to be back here. We're really excited to be part of this group today. I call this the group of, clean water true believers, and it's a pleasure to be among you all. So we're going to focus today on how the city of Peoria has embraced green infrastructure. I'll give you some background and we'll go through a lot of show and tell slides, and I hope you enjoy it. So city of Peoria is located about 150 miles southwest of Chicago, kind of in the upper center of the state of Illinois there. We're also about 150 miles from St. Louis, and we're right along the Illinois River. Just some quick facts about Peoria. 2010 census was about 115,000. We were incorporated in the mid-1800s, and our legacy industries were agriculture, distilleries, and stockyards. All of those industries taken together, particularly the distilleries and stockyards, left us with a legacy of not so clean water. Our current major employers are in manufacturing, which includes Caterpillar and Komatsu, and then we have quite a large healthcare industry. So our demographics, we want to get into this issue of equity associated with green infrastructure. In Peoria, we have, again, 115,000. Our population is falling, though. We're probably right at about between 105 and 110 right now. 62% white, 27% black, 5% Asian, 0.3% Native American, and 4% mixed race. 5% of people of any race were identified as Hispanic or Latino. Relatively low medium household income in terms of Illinois, 19% of the population below the poverty line. So our, I guess we would call it, even though we're a small city, we would call this our inner city school district, is one of the larger ones outside the city of Chicago, about 13,000 students in the year 2018. 57% of the students are Black, 21% white, 11% Hispanic, and 69% of the students were low income in 2018. Now to go on to disparity, gives me no pleasure in trotting out these statistics. There's something that we take seriously, and we're working very hard on improving in all avenues of our community, including green infrastructure. But there's a group called 24/7 Wall Street. They're an internet-based financial news entity. And in 2016, they named the Peoria metropolitan area as the worst metropolitan area for Black Americans in the country. Very discouraging. Here's some statistics on how they came to their rankings. Black median household income was about 46.5% of white. Black poverty rate, about 3 times that of the white poverty rate. High unemployment in the Black community, and in the Peoria metropolitan area. So that's a 3-county area with a population of about 300,000. Blacks made up about 9% of the population. So my point in showing the slide is to show you the good and the bad and the ugly, and how we're trying to address some of those issues with our green infrastructure program. Beyond some disparities, we also have wet weather problems. So we're governed by the Clean Water Act, and we are using green infrastructure to comply with most of those regulatory requirements. Just a little overview, there's a map of Peoria. Green is the city limits. The yellow is the overarching sanitary district boundaries. We have some unsewered area that's cross-hatched. So we are, in terms of regulatory requirements, we're bound by the Clean Water Act for stormwater, as well as for combined sewer overflows. In that lower shaded area, shaded light blue that says combined, that's the area of our combined sewers. As with the other 800 communities in the country that have combined sewers, that's our oldest area of town. In Peoria's case, it's also our poorest area of town. It's our area with the highest minorities. So when we're talking about siting green infrastructure in our disadvantaged communities, we are already set up that way, just in terms of our geography and our age of our sewer systems. This is our second round of CSO improvements, and we managed about 75% of the problem in the 1990s. And now we really believe we can use green infrastructure to get the rest of the way home. Just for those who don't know what combined sewers are, real simple schematic here. A combined sewer is one system of pipes that carries both wastewater and stormwater runoff. So, you know, on the left there's a building, and that just represents any building in the community, whether it be a house or a business or an industry. And the waste from that building is going through the sewer system. Now, on a day when it's not raining or the snow's not melting, no problem. The pipe that goes to the wastewater treatment plant, plenty big enough to carry that waste load to get safely treated and released. But when it rains, those old combined sewers are not big enough to hold the volume of both the sewage and the stormwater runoff. And what happens is the pipes surcharge, there's too much water for them, and they overflow in certain locations into the river. So pretty gross, diluted sewage that flows into the river. So that's our issue. It's definitely a regulatory issue. You know, we are in the process of working towards a consent decree with the US EPA to address the rest of our issue. There's some quick stats on our combined sewers. And we've chosen to use green infrastructure to abate our combined sewer overflow problem, but we like green infrastructure so much, we're using it in the entire city. In 2014, the EPA came out with guidance on using green infrastructure to address CSO plans. We were thrilled because at that point, to use gray infrastructure to solve our problem, we would have needed a 4-mile long, 11-foot diameter tunnel under Peoria that would have cost about $260 million. So imagine that huge investment of public, you know, resources to just put it underground and have it disappear. So we decided we were going to go for the green. We were very fortunate in 2014 to apply for and succeed in receiving a Bloomberg Foundation Innovation Grant. Pretty interesting opportunity. We did apply based on our CSO Green Infrastructure Program. And what this does, this grant was $1.5 million, and it's given to cities to innovate. in any type of their operations. So we focused first and foremost for about 6 months on green infrastructure in our combined sewers. And really quickly, I'll show you what we did, which was super valuable. Very grateful for the generosity of other cities and their staff's time. So to really look at a problem, to do a deep dive into information about it and data, there's nothing better than going on a road trip. So we went to Indianapolis. They have a combined sewer issue. They showed us quite a few installations where they were controlling stormwater. They also have something called the Cultural Trail, which many of you have probably have been on. It's like a combination stormwater management as well as like a connectivity through destinations through their downtown. We went to Chicago. We looked at the Sustainability Center. We went to Benito Juarez High School, saw their stormwater infrastructure there. And we ate at something called the Inspiration Kitchen, which was interesting in that it was a restaurant that was basically staffed by parolees from the criminal justice system. And all of these things are like adding little bits of information and best practices that we can emulate in Peoria. Went to Philadelphia. We spent a day traveling with their, what they call their Power Corps. That's their workforce development group that maintains their green infrastructure. And we modeled that program. I'll show you later. Went to Portland, learned about drought conditions there. If you think about Portland, you think it's very rainy. Well, they also have an extreme drought situation. So they were explaining the difference in plant selection and maintenance during drought conditions. Good information to take back. And Seattle, very generous with us. We went out with their maintenance crew, learned what to do, what not to do. They also have this great computer model that as an engineer, I'm so jealous of because it's so cool and it models their sewer system like down to the block. So out of that and looking at all of our own resources, talking to people in our community, we came up with our primary best management practice, I guess, in Peoria to address CSO, and we're calling it a complete green street. And you can read there, you know, we not only want to meet the federal regulations and, you know, abate our CSOs, but we want to do more. So we came up with, these were our community benefits or co-benefits that we would like to focus on with any complete green street project we do. So we want to look at crime mitigation. We want to look at the workforce training that we're talking about today. And you know what? I see a hole there, and I would, after listening to Carla's discussion this morning, I think I would love to add like an equity co-benefit to our program, and I'll be talking to my coworkers about that. Here's some show and tell of some projects we did. This is an intersection that's near Bradley University. So Bradley University is a mid-sized university in Peoria. It was just opportunity knocked. We had a huge water main break that kind of wrecked the whole intersection. And we very quickly, like within 6 months, rebuilt it. We put it on a road diet, which means we shrunk the amount of lanes there. We focused it more on pedestrians, and we have rain gardens. We did learn though that plant selection in there is a bad plant selection. So something about green infrastructure, I think, is don't be afraid as a community to get out there, take some risks, make a few mistakes. You can always fix them. Here's another application for green infrastructure. This is not in our CSO area. This is up in our separated sewer area. Green infrastructure is still great, no matter where you put it. This was one of our legacy heritage neighborhoods that had brick streets, and we were able to replace a street that was in horrible condition with the permeable pavers from curb to curb, and it you know, it blends in nicely with the neighborhood. In 2016, we did a pilot project on 2 blocks in our downtown. We call it our pilot project because really it was our proof of concept for the EPA. And we involved the adjacent landowners in it. We had a lot of neighborhood meetings, and we basically took like a 5-lane paved concrete swath, you know, and turned it into 2 lanes, some parking, and a lot of green infrastructure on it. We have a lot of monitoring out there. We're getting a lot of scientific data, both in the pipes as well as like smaller scale monitoring to actually measure like the how much each bioswale is absorbing. Getting some good science. Here's one of our primary schools in a very poor area, high crime area of Peoria. We replaced the whole street. We used green infrastructure. In this case, their preference was to use it for parking. We also did a lot of safety improvements. We added lights out there, and there's the school kids. We had the school kids come and plant the native plants. So involving those kids, you know, there's a great way to implant, I guess, no pun intended, green infrastructure into your community. And another project we did, not in the CSO area, but we were able to put in almost a mile of permeable asphalt bike walk trail, and we were able to get a grant, and that's even through the Federal Highway Administration. So seeing a real shift there where you can get a grant from the Federal Highway Administration to do some green infrastructure. So that worked out well. Here's an example of an upcoming project. And this is, we've learned, as others have spoken, that you really need to get the neighborhood in on telling you exactly what kind of features they want to see in their neighborhood. And to do that, we've learned that we have to use better representation of our proposed project. If you get up there as an engineer and you show people like an engineering drawing, you're going to get blank stares. But if you show them something, you know, with the rendering and show them how it will actually look with the actual, you know, the actual, in this case, the buildings, the houses that are on the street, you can give a much better impression of where you're going. So let's finish up by talking about our green infrastructure and workforce development in Peoria. One of our programs that we've had since, let's see, I think this is since 2015, is the Mayor's Summer Youth Corps. So they're in the Peoria public school system. We have 20 high school students aged 16 to 18. They work for 8 weeks during the summer. They get paid minimum wage. They work 4 days a week, 6 hours a day. So it's not, you know, not a full-time job. These are high school kids. So this is like getting their feet wet in the workforce. We did struggle at the beginning with, oh my gosh, who's going to supervise these kids? You know, are we going to pull off one of our supervisors to do this? And what we figured out is you hire 2 teachers that are off work anyway for the summer, and they're the perfect ones to shepherd the teenagers into their work day. So the kids, they don't just get, you know, experience in landscaping, as in here in the picture, they are installing a rain garden in front of the Board of Ed, actually, for the school. But we also like have them tour local businesses. They have guest speakers. They learn a lot of soft skills in terms of resume building and things like this. So very successful program, and we hope it can keep going. This was an example of one project we did. It's called the Well Farm at Voris Fields, and it actually was through a USDA grant for urban agriculture and stormwater. The actual grantee, and I have to give it a shout out, was Green Print Partners of Chicago. They're a social investment firm. that is focusing on environmental issues. So they were the lead, the lead on this effort, and the city provided the land and some other minor support. And then we had a not-for-profit partner that managed an urban agriculture plan. So what you see there is 100 raised planting beds. There were about 6 apprentices every season that learned everything, from how to plant produce or choose the seeds, plant it, care for it, harvest it. They sold it at the farmer's market and got to keep the proceeds. And then in the middle of there also is a stormwater forest. So if you look at the picture on the lower left, and you see that kind of that white diagonal strip, that's a strip of gravel there. And what we're doing is we're diverting stormwater from an adjacent street. It spreads out there, and there's 40 stormwater trees there that we have extra stormwater on these. They're a hybrid poplar tree that is very good at not only soaking up stormwater, but actually pulling out pollutants from the soil. And we've got all sorts of little micro monitors in there. So this is a great project. It's like a cool science project. It's a cool urban agriculture workforce development project. The really sad thing is that it's not funded this year. So, some of these wonderful efforts are going to require some diligence, especially in times like now, to fund them. We do partner with Bradley University. We teach a section of their senior civil engineers, and we have them design a complete green street, just like we would do. We've been doing that for 3 years. So that's building in more emphasis on green infrastructure, I guess, into the civil engineering curriculum there. And here's our, probably my favorite, and the last one I'll talk about is our Peoria Core program, which was modeled on the Philadelphia Power Corps program. It's through AmeriCorps. AmeriCorps is an agency like Peace Corps is for foreign soil. AmeriCorps is, in the United States. Our program is for young people 17 or older that have been unemployed or out of school for quite a while. We do them in 6 months. We call them cohorts, about 10 at a time. They do receive their green infrastructure maintenance certificate, and they have an educational stipend at graduation. So they aren't paid during the program, but when they graduate the program, they have $10,000 each that can go towards any vocational training or any other type of education. So they do green infrastructure maintenance. They learn all about that, but so much more. They spend a lot of time on job readiness and other skills. A lot of these young people are from families they've had significant trauma. They get a lot of social support. In fact, there's 3 full-time employees that manage this program, and one really does nothing but set them up with social services, and that can be anything to homelessness, medical issues, childcare. And I would say that a program like this, it's about the staff that you pick. They're the ones that are going to make it successful, in addition, of course, to the participants themselves. But the gentleman in the cowboy hat on the right is our public works. He's our landscape architect, and he is also the supervisor for this program. But he is, he's got his master's in landscape architecture. His parents are educators, so I think he has some of that, educator in himself. But he's, a great role model, and he's just been wonderful for this program. So if you're considering your workforce development, I think the staff you hire or the staff that you have that manage that program are just as important as the component of the program. Really, it all comes down to people. These are a very popular program. People will stop honk, wave, the public will when they see them out and working. So we're really, really excited about this program. So summing it all up, we're really serious about green infrastructure in Peoria. We want to use it. We want to learn, continue to learn, and make our community better using green infrastructure. And just as those other communities have been so generous with us to show green infrastructure, if you would like to come to Peoria, please do. We'd be happy to show you around. And thanks to the sponsors today. I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you so much, Jane. We have several questions for you. The first one is, I'm curious about the relationship between the city of Peoria and the utility, and if there's been an important factor, if that's been an important factor in the program.
It has, in terms of our regulatory requirements, we are partners with the Greater Peoria Sanitary District, is the entity that provides sanitary sewage for Peoria and about 5 other communities. We work well with them. They do not specifically partner with us for workforce development. They have their own efforts, though, in that regard. So we work well with them. We don't partner with them on everything, but we do partner with them on some things.
Great. Another question is, have your projects sited along streets affected your snow removal needs?
No. To put it bluntly, no. And actually, I left off a couple places we went. Like, we actually went to talk to Burlington, Vermont in January and looked at their green infrastructure and how they handled it. So, we've even selected, if you site your bioswale plants, if you have enough of a buffer away from the curb, you're going to be okay.
Great, thanks so much. Next question is, where did the funding come from for the Mayor's Summer Youth Corps program? And do you know what the budget was?
I don't know what the budget is. I apologize. And I know that most of the funding is from the city, but we do get other subsidies or donations in kind. I believe a lot of the lunches are provided by some of the local businesses. And then in terms of the other, tours and other guest speakers, those are all donated from generous members of the community.
Great. Who administers the Green Infrastructure certification to the AmeriCorps program graduates?
I should have looked at that, and it's like one of those alphabet soup ones, and I apologize, I don't remember which one, but if you just Google search Peoria Corps, you'll get to the basic page about them, and you'll learn the answer to that question.
All right, that's great. And then the last question is, how did these programs get started? How did you get support from the city council, city administrators, city staff?
Okay, well, let's see. The way to get green infrastructure started came with a mandate from the EPA, I'm not gonna lie. So one of your best motivators can be the threat of a consent decree. But of the city council, I think once we went through those site visits to other areas and presented them, here's a $260 million tunnel, or here's $200,000 of green infrastructure. Money is always going to be a concern. We might like to think it's not the most important one, but it's definitely one. So the fact that we could show that green infrastructure could save some money, I think got us a lot of good votes.
Great. Thank you so much, Jane. That was wonderful.